Hello everyone, this is Woodmaster speaking. In today's video I will be talking about the guard stance. This feature is currently being used in Elite Stages and Arena, however there's a difference to how it works in both features. In Elite Stages the guard stance characters get to attack at your second turn, and in Arena the first position in the guard stance gets to attack before your other characters can in round 1. In this video I will be focusing on the Arena part, because guard stance plays a bigger role in Arena as it does in Elite Stages. Also, in general, you can say that what works in Arena also works for Elite Stages. But if you guys want me to make a video especially on guard stance in Elite Stages, please leave a comment in the comment section and maybe I will make a video about it. Also, my war souls and my lineup are a bit messed up because I did some testing before making this video. But without any further ado, let's start. First, it's important to understand what works and what doesn't work in guard stance. In general, you can say that characters that have at least one of the following things should be used. A, do a big amount of damage, for instance Byakuya or Isshin. Isshin only if you have a heavy dot team, because he basically turns those dots into instant damage. B, have some kind of crowd control, either on their rage skill or as a passive. For instance, Mayuri with Awakened Weapon, Toshiro UR or Toshiro SSR, and Matsumoto. C, have a useful effect or have a useful passive that debuffs the enemy or boosts stats, including attack, defense, accuracy, etc., like Matsumoto, Grimjo, Ulquiorra, Yamamoto. D, and this one became more important since the recent changes on Yachuru, and that is to dispel beneficial effects from your opponent, 2 if they are male, 4 if they are female, and or dispel negative effects from your own characters, which is for instance Yachuru with her Awakened Weapon. And E, any AoE character, so a character that does area of effect damage with a good war soul. And I'll tell more to that later on what war souls are good and what war souls are not good. You shouldn't use characters that fall under the next categories. So A, only buff or benefit themselves. For instance, Komamura, his passive only benefits himself. Yes, he does stun on his rage skill, but he does really low damage, and I think there are many other good choices that stun very much better. C, have no buff or benefit at all. For instance, Nemu, yes, she has high damage, but it's only single target, and she does not have any other beneficial effect. In the past, I thought that when a passive had the wording when he or she is alive, it would not work, but after much testing I noticed that it does work properly, and yeah, it only does not work when it says when on the field. For instance, Ulquiorra, his dot damage buff does not work when he is in guard stance. I hope Oasis will add a feature to the game that allows you to see what buffs and bonuses you will be getting when the fight starts, taking into account what war souls are equipped and passives, etc. They could just show it on this screen, for instance. That would be very helpful, so you do not have to test all the time and can see if buffs are applied or not. And based on the information that I have summed up until now, I would recommend using the following characters in your guard stance. Personally, as you can see, I use Mayuri with Awakened Weapon. I use Yachuru in my second slot, but only since about 2 or 3 days. And I use Byakuya in my third slot. I use Mayuri in my first slot because he has a really high chance to stun. Also, he has poison damage, which can be very helpful. Yachuru is in second guard slot because she dispels CC effects from the back row, and usually I win versus most people on my server, except for 2 people who have higher initiative than me. And I use Byakuya at third slot, so he maybe gets some bonuses for his dual effect and does even more damage than he does anyway. So other good choices for guard stance would be, for instance, Yamamoto. I'll show you guys why. So his rage skill does burn damage to all enemies. So he's an AoE character. He has a 30% chance to reduce 300 rage, which is very much, and a 15% chance to stun. He reduces rage by 300, which is quite a lot. So even if you attack a character afterwards, if he's not a Black Tortoise character, he will probably still have less than 1000 rage. Then, for instance, Nell, her passive does bleed damage, and when she does a rage skill, she buffs the damage rate of all allies, and the ally with the lowest HP gets a bonus buff. Also, her rage attack can stun. So as you can see, she has a 30%. So as you can see, she also adds bleeding damage to the target and has a 40% chance to stun. Then Ulquiorra, his passive Solita Vista marks one enemy that gets 10% more damage from all sources, and if your characters attack that char, they heal for 2.5% of their max HP, which is or can be quite a lot, depending on how much HP they have, and it can be the difference between winning or losing a fight. Then Byakuya, as you can see, or could see, I use him because he's a heavy hitter, he decreases the attack of melee enemies, and he also has a dual effect, so he's best used in the third slot. This counts in general for all characters that use dual effects, like White Ichigo or Byakuya. Shinji, he decreases rage recovery rate for all enemies, and his rage skill also does a huge amount of damage and also reduces rage gain, as well as he reduces rage from the target with the highest rage. Unohana, she heals for quite a lot actually. She also increases rage gain as well as increasing rage. Then you have Sangetsu. I wouldn't use him because of the rage reduction, because the chances are that when you here it is. He reduces rage by 250 points, but the chances are if you attack with another character afterwards that's on the field, that the 250 rage points will be regained by the enemy. Then you could also use Aizen. His passive has the effect that it decreases the defense of all enemies by 10%, which is quite a lot, and he buffs the damage of Huecomundo allies. Also, his rage attack does decent damage and debuffs one enemy even more. Then you have Toshiro SSR. I used him at the beginning for quite a long time, because he decreases the enemy defense on rage skill and has a chance to freeze opponents. Also, his passive works, which gives bonus damage. Then you have Gin. He deals bleed damage and poison damage on his rage skill, and his passive lets all characters do 10% more damage to bleeding targets. And if you use Nell in your team, they will bleed for 2 turns anyway, so you will get the bonus damage from the very beginning. Then, as mentioned before, Yachiru, because her recent changes made her really, really good, especially the dispelling effect can be very, very beneficial. If you're losing because your characters get CC'd too often, I would advise you to build her up, get her weapon from a shop, and use her in your guard stance. Also, she's very helpful in the Vermilion Birds extreme challenges, so why not build her? Then you have Tozen. He deals damage to the back row and increases their damage reduction rate. Also, he gives an attack bonus to your back row. Matsumoto, she has several good effects, like decreasing attack of male enemies. She has an effect where allied females have an 8% chance to disorient enemies, and her rage skill does area of effect damage and has an 18% chance to silence. So she has multiple good effects and is definitely worth building. Unfortunately, as you can see, I haven't built her that well, but maybe I will in the future, now that her shards are farmable. Oh, so since recent, oh, it does not show up here. Maybe that's a bug. But I'll show you guys, you can farm her shards right here. And I even didn't do it today. And was unlucky, of course, but hey. Also, you can use Loopy. Also, you can use Loopy. So his passive makes the front row get less damage from enemy characters who have a dot effect on them. And he also adds an extra layer of dot effects. So if you run a dot heavy team, he can really do a lot of damage just by adding extra layers of dot effects. Then you have Toshiro UR. He reduces crit chance of the enemies on rage attack, and he does good damage overall, and also has a chance on freezing on his rage attack. Then you have Love. On his rage attack, he reduces enemies' defense by 10%, and he has a 50% chance to inflict burning. And you have Hachi. He increases damage reduction rate of the back row allies. There are some other good characters as well, who are good in guard stance, but I think that those who I mentioned are worth mentioning the most. Also, pay attention to buffs that are given. For instance, if it's a fixed number that Ichigo is, then it's not as strong as if it is a percentage bonus. For instance, this one, here you can see it's a flat 7.22% damage reduction, and I'll go way up to Ichigo. He increases attack by 828 for me, because his skill is on level 69. But as you can see, a percentage bonus usually scales way better than a static number, or just a number that is given. What's also worth mentioning is how I test if I get specific buffs or not. Basically what I do is I go to fight, elite, formation, I throw them all out, which sometimes works better and sometimes doesn't work at all. Okay, yeah, I need to have one character at least on the field. For instance, let's test if where is he? Shuhei, he gives a defense bonus, and yeah, now we can see if it also applies if he is in guard stance. So now just fight, and if we see a blue line of text popping up defense, then you know it works, and we got it. Now it could also be that it's just for Yamamoto, that he also has an effect that increases his defense. So what you can do to test that is get him out, press save again, enter combat again, and see what bonuses are applied now. And as you can see, it only says effect accuracy. So that's just a small tip from my side on how you can test if specific passives or skills work, and if they work only on the field or also in guard stands. Next, I want to talk about good Warsols that you can put on characters in guard stands. For instance, Orihime Warsol, it does work, but remember that it's based off the attack of the Soul Bearer. So equipping it to a character with high attack is really important. Also note that if you equip it to someone on the field and that character dies, you will lose the passive or you will lose the bonus of this Warsol. If it's equipped on someone in guard stance, it will be active all the time. Then Chet's Warsol is also very good. It gives us chance to stun, so it's good on any area of effect character. As you can see, Great Skill has a 9% chance to stun the target and deal extra damage. The extra damage isn't that much and not really worth mentioning in my opinion, but the stun chance is really good. Then you have Aizen's Warsol, in my opinion one of the best Warsols in the game at the moment, because it debuffs the enemy by quite a lot, especially if used on an area of effect character. So it debuffs attack and defense of the enemy. Then Komamura's Warsol is good because it gives your allied mastery skills a specific chance to ignore 8% plus 100 of the target's defense. This one goes hand in hand with Matsumoto's Warsol, which has two positive effects. It increases attack slightly for all allies, and mastery skill of skill and defense specialty characters have a chance to silence, which is also worth a lot. Also, you have Toshiro SSR Warsol. When battle begins, allies have a 50% chance to trigger a mastery skill. In my opinion, it's a bit weak. They could make it where when battle begins, allies have when this round begins, so you have it every round and not just at the start of the battle, because else this Warsol does not do very much in my opinion. Then you have Byakuya's Warsol. I only have it at blue 3 stars because I focused on his talent that gives you Jade Summoning tokens to get the value running as soon as possible, but it has a really strong effect, buffing all ally attack and damage rate by a good percentage amount, and it also increases bleed damage, so it works well on a bleeding team. Well, that's it for specific Warsols. Next up are Warsols in the second Warsol slot. So in general, I would say to always use attack buffing Warsols on guard stance characters, because they do not benefit from HP or defense or damage reduction. So I would say Warsol of Vengeance works really good. Yes, it buffs HP, but for the first 2 turns you will have a percentage amount of damage being reflected, as you can see. If you have multiple of those, it can all add up. For instance, imagine a Urahara shop team with Tessai using his Warsol, and maybe 3 or 4 of these Warsols, and just see the enemy obliterate himself. Could be very funny. If anyone has a team like this, please let me know in the comments. I would really like to see it in action. Warsol of Shattering works well on characters that have CC effects, because it also buffs attack, as you can see, not by that much. This is where I said a static number like 488 is not as good as, for instance, 2%. So 2% would be better as 488 attack, but we get what we can take. Then you have Warsaw of Crippling. That's this one. Yeah, this one works really well in my opinion, especially on solo guard characters. So if you run an area of effect character, it can make multiple characters of the opponent's team take extra damage, and yeah, it can all add up. So in my opinion, really good on area of effect characters, especially on the one in the first slot. So I will be giving this Warsaw to Mayuri, but as you can see, currently it's equipped to Kyuraku. Like I said, I played around with Warsaws before, so not everything is optimal at the moment. Then there's Warsaw of Crimson. I do not have it, unfortunately. I really want it. It's yeah, if you run a bleed character like Byakuya or any other bleed character like Nell or whoever, then I would definitely advise using Crimson, because it just adds, I think, up to 50% if it's max leveled of bleed damage, which can be a lot. Then Warsaw of the Eye works on guard stance characters just as well as on deployed characters. Where do I have it? There it is. So it means that when attacking, there's a 52% chance to ignore 60% of the target's defense. So ignoring 60% of the target's defense can be worth a lot. So as you can see, I gave it to Shinji. He is an area of effect character, and every character has a 60% chance, or has a chance to ignore 60% of the target's defense and can get more damage. Now, if I didn't mention any Warsaw specifically, it is because, in my opinion, they are either a plain buff to damage or HP or defense, or do not have a beneficial effect for guard stance characters, and are not worth mentioning specifically, in my opinion. If I should have overlooked a Warsaw or anything else, or if you disagree or agree with me, please let me know in the comments. I'm always grateful if I get feedback. Now, I will show you guys who I use in guard stance, or how it works in battle, and how my arena fights look like. So as you can see, he also uses 3 characters that have area of effect effects or area of effect rage skills, because in general you can say that those are better to use in guard slot than characters who only attack one character, a row or a column. Oh, yeah, as you can see, I still have the wrong team in it, because currently we are buffing a friendly team member or squad member, so he will get 2400 points achievement or milestone. So sometimes I change my team to a noob team, as you can see, and attack him and lose, but that's not all too bad. Let's just attack him again. But as you can see, now I need to fix my guard stance again, which can take some time. Sorry for that. Where are they? Just 1, 2. So this is my usual lineup that I use. I tend to switch it around every once in a while, but yeah, let's just press the button again and do auto combat. So until now I'm lucky, only getting stunned twice. And it doesn't matter that Unohana gets frozen, it will only give back a little bit rage to White Ichigo. Those silences will really hurt probably. Oh, well, Clear got enough. Oh, it doesn't have enough rage though. Or he's silenced, okay, that's fine. I did not stun that many characters, but did a ton of bleed damage and got off some really strong shields. I really like the change that they made to Urahara, because his shields became so potent, it's crazy. Especially if you have a Sage Ball bonus going on, all your characters receive less damage, and your shields will last even longer. And Unohana died, which is really good for me. Yeah, that dispels some effect. And now I hope to do some serious damage. That's gonna hurt. And he uses rage also, which was the most annoying part of that rage skill. But luckily I still won. So yeah, that basically was my team and my guard stance characters. I hope you guys liked the video and it could provide you any useful information or be of any usefulness to you. Also, if you liked the video, please like the video. If you disliked the video, please dislike the video. And if you have any suggestions on future videos that you want me to make, please feel free to ask and write comments